Yes. Well, welcome. We've been doing a lot of work on our strategic plan, and we have one more exercise today, but I just wanted to kind of go over what we've done so far. We want to get things into a final format so that you can eventually adopt them. And once you've adopted your portrait of a graduate and your strategic priorities, then it's going to be time to go ahead and direct your superintendent and staff to go ahead and build that plan around those priorities. So we're getting down to it. And we're, I think, on a good schedule too, because I mean, by this time you have the new term starting and going to the school year, it should be pretty much done with everything. I think summer to kind of work on stuff. So it should be a good plan. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. Again, my name is Jen Nelson. If you haven't seen me before, I'm with OSBA, and we've been working on our strategic plans. And so I've kind of taken everything that we worked on last time when we did some revisions on the screen, and I'm actually going to do that again today. Because it worked really well. I'm going to have it up there for all of you to just make the changes and then everybody can come back. So we're going to start off with the overview. We're going to go and look at that portrait of a graduate that we started to work on and kind of finalized some wordings. Okay, that's not for me, is it? No, I'm not printing. And I know that I don't know if you brought any of your paperwork from the last time. It had some of the feedback. I don't think it has the things that we're going to look at today, so I have that on the screen. But already.
It canceled. We'll surprise them. Let's touch.
Oh, that's a smart screen.
Yeah, it's not smart.
Yeah, everywhere. So we'll present that final draft. I just made a couple of changes from what you had mentioned last time. So that should be in its final draft form tonight. So you can adopt that whenever you're going to have them on the agenda. We'll go ahead and look over those revised draft strategic plans that we worked on last time. And and did everybody get a copy of the stuff in the little packet, right? So that's kind of what I'm going to explain to you how I got to where we are with that based on our feedback. Then what we're going to do is, because all that is done, we're going to do a little exercise similar to what we did, but working with the mission and vision statements, just to make sure that everything aligns with what our new kind of modified priorities are. And so here's that portrait of a graduate. All the statements that we worked on last time are finalized, the same as it is in your packet. Did anybody have any medical errors or things that look like they needed to change? Not, and that's pretty much ready to go whenever you want to place it on the agenda to adopt that graduate profile. OSBA does, our communications department, we do have some things we wanted to do, and I kind of pretty portrait of a graduate or whatever. I know you guys had a really good strategic plan, and you're talking about how you have it all set up. It's really nice. So I just wanted to kind of put this out there that we do have those availability if you want to turn it into a nice graphic. We do have that available, but this pretty much shows what it looks like. And all of these items that we talked about, and it did go into, I used this when I was going over the revisions for the priorities to make sure things kind of aligned. Everyone able to see that okay? All right. Moving on to our revised strategic priorities. So this right here was just basically all of the notes that we had taken on those big pieces of paper and stuff. I combined that for the portrait of graduate work and also the priorities work that we did. The highlighted ones were those items that were the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and we did the SWOT analysis where you have multiple things. People that had similar ones when we had more than one, those are kind of the highlighted ones so that you can see ones that were not just one or two groups. Sometimes it was more. So I just kind of put all the feedback into this little chart, and then I started reviewing that to make sure that the language and the things that we had were in those strategic priorities, the new ones. So what we ended up with last time when we revised, we had these titles right here for the strategic priorities, pretty much still keeping what you already had. But I wanted to bring in how it supports the portrait of a graduate themes that you approved as well. So it's kind of like we have this strategic priority about safe and welcoming facilities and services. it supports those Portrait of Graduate themes of belonging, collaboration, and responsibility. So I just wanted to kind of show you that we are covering these themes from the Portrait of a Graduate in with the strategic priorities that we've adapted to. Sometimes it's nice to see that next to each other. So this was where we left off last time. We had, now I put them in the same order that it was where people were giving their priorities as far as which pillars they thought were highest priority. So we kind of worked through these last time. And this was the revised work that we did. I highlighted it because you all wanted me to take a look at that and make sure that was either needed or not. And I believe we actually did talk about it. So what I did is I took these and then I kind of looked at your Portrait of Graduate. I looked at all the feedback, and what I tried to find was, is everything covered in here based on like the big words, the big ideas? If it's covered, or are some of these maybe repetitive or redundant that we could eliminate them. So for this particular pillar, this is what I came up with, that for each of our sections, we have the different, the description, and then we have the this means we will kind of bullet points. And what I did is I had a suggestion. These are things for you to consider. And what I did is I put the things that I asked you to consider into the final format that you see, but you're welcome to change anything. But I just wanted you to see what the final would look like if we were to make these changes as suggested. But refining the description based on the work that we did on that revision is a new description to provide safe, inclusive, and modern learning environments that support creativity, engagement, and readiness for a changing world. You can see it's a little bit different than what we have here, and it's incorporating more of those key themes. The reason why we changed it, and I'm asking you to consider that refined or revised description, is because it reflects back on the increased security, the engaging spaces, the staff reports, all that stuff within the feedback and also conversations, and it strengthens the alignment with the Portrait of a Graduate themes of adaptability and responsibility. So that's all I have about that. And then some of the changes I was suggesting, we kind of looked at number 4, we were talking about, do we need to remove this or revise it in some way? And it is pretty much so repeated in the description. So I do say that you can either remove it, or you might want to revise it a little bit, because if you revise it to this one where it's foster inclusive learning environments where every student feels physically safe, emotionally supported, and culturally valued, this kind of retains what you're saying, but it makes it more of an actionable bullet point. Because this one right here pretty much just repeats what the description is, and we don't want to necessarily have a bullet point that repeats what the description is. And this one would make it a little bit more actionable. And then also, if you want to cover some other things, expanding access to mental health, wellness, and behavioral supports to foster safe and supportive school cultures. This really supports the feedback that we got about trusted adults and SEL and regulation of student behavior that kind of came out not just through the survey, but also through our work in our key kind of conversations. So those are my suggestions. And then I also suggested changing the title because it's a little bit long with safe, welcoming facilities. And it's also more focused on the buildings rather than the student, like why you want to have safe and welcoming environments. So I said safe and engaging schools because even though the title up here is clear, I was recommending that we just shorten it a little bit so that it's more of an emphasis on the goal of safe and engaging schools rather than the means of making sure that the facilities and services are safe. So what are our thoughts on that? Some of the suggestions.
The only question I have on that one is the word foster,
Okay.
because we have a foster school, Foster Elementary.
Oh,
So if we
yeah,
can use
so
a different word other than foster, it might, because somebody's going to look at that and think Foster Elementary instead of.
I'm gonna highlight that word and see if we want to find the difference. Okay, I'm gonna highlight that. So are you leaning towards rather than removing the number 4 is to maybe revise it to that other statement, just find a different word?
Revise it, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? And I know this is kind of an additional thing that I did with all of them, but basically, we have a lot going on here with the description and all the bullet points. So I was trying to, if you had to quickly explain what safe and engaging schools means, we have these summary descriptors, which is basically a summary of all the stuff that you're putting underneath it, including the description to building supportive and future-ready learning environments. That's kind of what this group is. And then this is further refining the description. And then you have the bullet points under.
How about cultivate for foster?
Okay, yeah. Anybody else?
I think we need to be careful about the emotionally supported and culturally valued. We have to remember, we're not Portland public, you know, so we have to just, I just think we need to be really careful with how descriptive words here now.
Stay away from charged buzzwords.
Yeah, I really do. I'm just gonna be honest, but culturally valued could cause some things.
Yeah, some of that came from words that were actually in the survey, if you filled it out, so if you don't feel that it fits or you don't want to put that in, you can definitely change that as well.
Any board members that are here feel about that? You guys are the base leaders. I was thinking that before Barbie said it.
Well, I was thinking it about school cultures, and I'd rather say schools, period, and get rid of the cultures on the add 5. I was thinking of it just for the same reason.
Right.
Buzzword.
If you on that school culture is different.
Yeah, but I'd still stay away from.
So if we keep number 4, revise it to just cultivate.
Is it going to say?
Inclusive learning environments where students feel physically safe and emotionally supported.
I was trying to figure out something to replace the culturally valued.
Okay.
Why not just
Well,
I don't think we should be simple, instead of this emotionally and culturally, we should just say safe and valued. I don't think we need to have physically safe. They need to feel emotionally safe. Less is more in my mind.
feel safe, supported, and valued.
There you go. There you go.
Is it for immediately thinking some of these things?
back yourself into stuff that you don't necessarily want.
Say supportive and valued. Come on. Not a little bit.
What about in the inclusive portion of that, getting rid of that to just cultivate learning environments where your students feel safe, supported, and valued?
And even with those changes, one of the things we want to kind of think about is, does this new number 4 essentially just repeat what we have in the description, and is it needed?
I think the revised number 4 expounds more on what that is.
Make it more of an action.
Yeah. Originally, this bullet point in our last strategic plan was specifically about facilities. And so it's kind of including more into it than what we had
Yeah,
previously.
yeah, based on the feedback and some of those ongoing themes and some of the feedback from the survey as well, yes, it's incorporating a little bit more than originally was there. And focusing more on the environment, not necessarily the physical locations only.
Inclusive of, and under refined the description is, everybody feel included, and what's the modern learning environments? Modern is just saying we're up to date. We're current.
Computer,
I think there was a lot of talk about the facilities at the high school and making sure that there's
Okay.
safety, so
Update.
modern was kind of like that way of saying, we make sure that our security system stuff at
Yeah.
the high school is up
Yeah.
to date. I think that's where that came from.
I think that also supports technological improvements, things like smart boards, stuff like that, where we're using the technology that's currently
There, it's.
available, yeah.
A lot of our curriculum is digital, so, you know, so we like to,
Right.
Yeah.
Looking good? Okay, what I can do is any of the changes that we're working on here today, I can just incorporate in that sheet, and then that would become your fine. So we're ready to, we can go ahead and move on to the next. How does everyone feel about shortening the title of the pillar? To just say engaging schools instead of the welcoming facility services?
I like that.
Because what I've noticed is that you kind of have things that are focused on the schools, then you have focus on the students, the academic achievement, and then also the community too. So it kind of like this one pillar altogether kind of talks about all those different things and as far as the facilities, the services, but it kind of combines them all. Whereas before, as I said, it was kind of more on focus on the building. It's not necessarily the means.
Well, and the benefit of focusing on the buildings with the last strategic plan was how many schools did we modernize and rebuild? That was kind of the focus that we were going for at the time. So,
So now where are we going for the future?
yeah, we've got the big high school project that we're looking into and where that goes, but I think that the old bullet point has kind of been what used well, and so tying it together, moving forward, maybe a different look at what we're talking about here.
And how do you all feel about adding that additional point, about expanding access to mental health? Because that came out of the survey, the wellness and behavior supports came out of the survey, but it wasn't really incorporated in the bullet that you currently have. Yes.
Have you gone through this process with other schools
Yes.
this year or last year? Because the conversation, because when we're looking at inclusive, you know, within special ed, inclusion is the big thing, and we're looking at safety. You know, this is year 36 for me. More kids are harder than the other as far as kids that are coming into school and
Mhm.
hitting, and it's almost more of a philosophical discussion, probably. But our for some kids, we want to, you know, we value inclusion, but some kids are so impacted that there's outside placements that can serve those kids better than we, you know, their mental health issues are more pervasive than what we can help them with such. Just, you know, that word inclusive
Yes, it does
We
go
are
into the
inclusive.
inclusion model, yeah. Mhm.
to the max that we can. But right now we are 4 or 5 kids that plus in Springfield, you know.
And I think sometimes when people see that word too, they are thinking inclusion, studies as well, but it's more than just inclusion for special education. I don't think that if there's another word that you feel would be better supported. The problem is it is difficult to do things because of the triggers, because some have different, and you know, definitions or you refer to them in different ways. So I understand what you're trying to do, and everybody's trying to do that right now too. So if you have a different word,
I
that you.
I don't want to, I personally would not want to see number 5 added,
No,
just because it backs in, it could back us into budget breakers. Especially with the way stuff's going at the state level right now. We already do as much as we can, but to expand it, unless there's funding there.
Well, I think you could make it that way. Where you'd say expand mental health to the point of that it's budgeted. But I don't think you just leave it there. I think you could say something about budget.
Well, and keep in mind, this is a roadmap. This isn't a policy or a directive.
yeah, these are gonna turn
So-
into those goals and indicators as well.
Because everybody's trying to get mental health out there. It's all over the place.
But at the same time, you drop into the philosophical argument of what's the purpose of the school? And is the school here I mean, we have to deal with mental health issues when they're there. Because we don't have any reason to, or reason not to, we have to. But at the same time, if that becomes a primary focus of the education system, are we then taking away from?
I think what I'm seeing with
Education
that
process.
expand access to mental health is counselors.
Not seeing it though. We've seen a lot of expansion.
Changing
outside
plan
of
to
it.
maintain what the current have. But it is, I know it is definitely something that people asked for and wanted to make sure that the school was thinking of when they were giving their feedback in the survey. It was a concern from the parents and wanting to make sure that that happens. So rather than, kind of looking at, like you said, it's kind of a roadmap. These are the ideals, these are kind of aspirational, these are the things that we want to work on, these are the things that we can do in order to get to having safe and engaging schools. But yes, you tying any kind of budgets and stuff to that, you're not really doing that at this point, you're just kind of setting the priorities and the direction you want them to go, but the plan itself will decide if you're gonna have parts of that that are goals and indicators that you're. And it also is for the next 5 years, not necessarily just for, you know, what's gonna be coming now.
There again, we're on that foster again.
Mhm. What other people think about either not having that or modifying it in some way?
I think deleting expand and replace it with maintain, maybe.
I was thinking the same thing. Maybe.
Oh, up above.
Oh, we're talking about this, not,
We didn't finalize that.
yeah. So,
Just because of what Brian mentioned and the possibility that of making that inclusive word. I mean, it's a double meaning.
Well, there are words that have been given specific meaning
yeah,
by political factions at this
what
point.
about
So
comprehensive?
What do you want?
Provide safe, comprehensive and monitoring, I mean, that's just another.
Okay.
Or. It's not inclusive, but at the same time, it's got the idea that, you know, everybody can be brought into it, based on their needs
I like that.
individually. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
like that better?
And just make sure you get right there.
On 5,
Uh-huh,
Okay, thanks.
you know. We're never going to have enough, we're never going to satisfy everyone.
mhm,
We're charged with doing, I think, the greatest good. Maintain access to mental health. I like that a whole lot more than expand.
mhm,
We have counselors at every school. Multiple counselors at the high school, and we hired 2 purely mental health counselors. Because we don't have access. In the various groups that say, oh yeah, we include Sweet Home. You can have someone that tries to commit suicide. And we're like, okay, support Sweet Home, they're not there. For kids in crisis, they're 6 to 8 weeks out, best case scenario. From anything. And so I'm not convinced that we have, and I don't want me to be this, and, you know, throw my hands up and say we're done. I don't see how we can expand it. Just geographically, I'm not trying to use that as an excuse. It's just talking with the different people, oh, hey, you wanna bring product X to you. All right, tell me some more about it. Well, we're located in Albany. And blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, so what can you do for Sweet Home? I'm concerned about that part of it.
Or we come almost into Sweet Home. Yeah,
We could choose
yeah.
LC. So. And so. I don't want to ignore it, but I also don't want it to be something that parents are gonna grab onto and say, but you said you're expanding or what have you.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, then everybody has their version of expansion as well. So,
Do you do currently have mental health and wellness and behavioral supports that you want to maintain, or do you want to say something about like?
Yes, we,
Being able to offer it?
we do have counseling and we do have that sort of thing that's available in its own.
Yeah, and should we at school level, I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
Going back to what Jason said, or my interpretation of what he said. We're here to educate kids.
But you have to deal with what comes up in schools.
Well, you do, but should we be expected to do that? I mean, we're about a step removed from having dentists in the schools and optometrists and everything else. In a setting with low SES and generational poverty. The schools are called on to do more and more, and then you meet yourself coming full circle. It's like, wait a minute, you're not doing very good on your test scores. Yeah, but we're also doing 87 other things other than, you know, teaching and learning.
Okay. So number 5, showing hands that think we should keep it as it's been revised, and anyone who. Anybody who has a comment about it? Everyone seems pretty good with
You
keeping it
okay with
revised?
Foster on there?
Where's the, it Foster, supports in Foster state? You want a different word for Foster?
I think it's less,
Encourage.
yeah.
We don't want to go with ESG, but there's a lot of other terms we can use instead of foster.
Yeah.
Right.
And then on number 5, there, 3. They probably found they had 5, we had to expand access to mental health and we pretty much as a group saying that we're not necessarily looking to expand that, but services that we have.
Makes sense.
And so based on what we have here, we have the revised description from what we worked on, then we would keep number 4, but revise it to what we have on the board, and then add number 5 as it's been revised. Is that good?
Change the title, safe and engaging school.
And change the title to safe and engaging students.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next one. This was just in case you didn't have them on your printout or you just wanted to see it. This is what it would have looked like essentially, but now we will be changing some of our words. The inclusive would be changed to comprehensive. It would include number 4, but all those changes that we just made above, we made it to the above one. So I just want you to kind of see it all together. What we have in safe and engaging schools. This is kind of like what it is, and then our description. That building supportive and future ready learning environments is just a summary description of the whole item. So if you want to kind of summarize it, you know, elevator speech kind of things, you can say, well, what does safe and engaging schools mean? Well, it means that we're building supportive and future ready learning environments, rather than remembering what the provide safe and comprehensive and modern, you know, it's just an easy way for you to help communicate it. So if you would like to include those summary descriptors, that's fine. If you don't, we can take those out. It just depends on how you're gonna redo what it looks like, you know? So,
Yeah, it's pretty hard.
yeah.
I mentioned that as, you know, the little bridge and that as a possibility, but what we have there is pretty dead on too.
Yeah.
So it would hurt my feelings if we stayed right here.
So this is what we did the last time we worked on revising the second category of thriving citizen, which was ranked second as far as overall with the parents and community feedback. If you wanted to put these in an order of what was higher priority. Thriving citizens next. This is what we kind of worked on, and then I was tasked with going back and making sure that everything was included. So this is what I came up with, just changes to consider. Adding a summary descriptor of the growing purpose driven and empowered students. refining that description, as you see it's up here, which is unlocking every student's full potential. We refined it to empower every student to thrive as contributing citizens with strong character, purpose, and individual strength. The reason why I changed that a little bit is to bring in some of the feedback and responses that you all had about work ethic and integrity and responsibility and student voice that was embedded in the portrait of the graduate. So this is kind of how I took what you had and started to try and embed all the work you did with the portrait of the graduate as well. And then things to change, you can revise the second one. It was here, it was provide comprehensive services. Oh, no, identify individual strengths. We talked last time about identify and nurture the individual strengths, so that I added that in there. To each student to support continuous learning and purpose-driven growth. So if you can see number 2, it's a little bit different than what we ended on the last meeting. But it just kind of, again, pulls in some of those key points, themes, and words that came out of your work on this. Revising number 4, we haven't still, I don't know why, but I put in still the attributes of a, and I just basically tried to get that parentheses out of there to make it more of a sentence. And then I was like, oh, we should go back to cultivate. I don't know why I put in still instead of cultivate, but just as I was working through, I ended up typing it, so it should be either way. Cultivate, that's what we had previously, you can keep that, I think that's actually what came out of the revision. So it could be cultivate the attributes of a productive citizen, character, resilience, leadership, wellness, and strong work. It's just for clarity, that revision really. And then adding some of that language from the portrait of the graduate. And then with this one too, the reason why I suggested changing the title from Thriving Citizen is because it does align with the portrait of a graduate because we have that thriving citizen on there, but it can be misinterpreted as without a description of what does that mean to be a thriving citizen. We're kind of talking about students. So I suggested the change either thriving and prepared students or thriving students and prepared citizens. I know it's a little longer, but just to get the idea that it's not just that you're creating thriving citizens or that you want them to be thriving citizens, but it's also more student focused about what are you doing to make sure that they become thriving citizens. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Any comments on adding, revising?
Maybe under revising priority title. Preparing thriving citizens.
I'm sorry.
Number 4, revise the title.
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I was suggesting prepare, what did you say?
Would it be thriving and preparing students? Or preparing, thriving in,
Preparing thriving citizens or something. Yeah, because right now it's thriving citizens, so the goal is to prepare them, so it's 3 words instead.
Sure,
Just
yeah.
an idea.
Mhm.
I kind of like the thriving students and prepared citizens.
I think too.
Because you're doing 2 things here. You're not just making sure that your students are thriving and learning all these things, but you're also making sure that by the time they graduate, they're ready to become the citizens with all those qualities you're looking for.
well, are we preparing them or are they prepared?
That, right,
Right.
that's a big distinction.
And the other one I have suggestion on there, I didn't put in there was prepared graduates. So I was like, do you want to talk about thriving students and prepared graduates? But I tried to keep your citizen in there, but that's another possibility. Is what are we doing with this? Pillar.
It's the same once they graduate, they are citizens
Mhm.
in life that we're leading them into adulthood.
Mhm.
The Sweden citizen.
Kick them out the nest, get out there.
Exactly. They're prepared. Right.
Preparing student citizenship, preparing. I feel like it's the word is preparing because they're not prepared, like.
They're not prepared, we are,
Working on it. Yep,
One of the things that I try to do is also thinking about tenses and like, so you have safe and engaging schools. That's what you want at the end. So what kind of students do you want at the end? We're not so much preparing them, but we want them to be prepared students. So that's what I was going with the thinking, just trying to make sure that each of your pillars are kind of like, these are the things we're working towards achieving. Not necessarily, these are the things we're doing, because the things we're doing will be identified in the bullet points.
And
the
again,
action.
it's a roadmap, and so this is where we want to be, this is where we're going to, these are how we get there.
How about, right now it's 2 words, how about, prepared citizen?
Well, that's why I
Right now
like
it's-
thriving students and prepared citizens, because it's kind of encompassing both ideas.
Well, I think the idea of a prepared citizen probably is more along the secondary end of the education that we deal with, where, you know, we're talking about junior high, high school, where we start with some of these community projects and things like that, that the kids are getting involved in, are more along the line of
Well,
citizenship outside of there, but then the thriving student needs to start at the younger grades as well and work its way through with the ultimate goal of prepared citizens.
I think if you added 1 word to that is thriving students and being prepared citizens. They're
Well,
not
just that very
prepared.
last sentence kind of falls into what Jason was just talking about, that student centered focus, and I think
Yeah.
that's where that conversation.
Yeah,
Came into play, right?
Yep. And really, we just want our titles to be just kind of like the key words, not necessarily like a full sentence or, but just like the overall themes, or not themes, but like keywords, like what you're working with. Yeah. I don't know if I've gotten a consensus,
I like the thriving students and prepared citizens because
I like that one a lot more myself too.
Yeah,
okay.
it's a destination.
I mean, I'll go with the majority, it's just, with the refined description and more words for the title, it's just becoming a little bit clunky.
That summary descriptor is not necessarily more words for the title, that's just kind of like for you to use as a summary of like, okay, what is a thriving students and prepared citizens pillar? Well, this is what our summary description is of like our description plus all the bullet points of the actions we're doing. That's kind of what I did with that summary descriptor. So you could be like, okay, thriving students and prepared citizens means that we're growing purpose-driven and empowered students.
So when I look at this, there's the heading,
Yeah.
thriving citizen, then right underneath that is the descriptor. On
The
there,
description,
or description.
yes.
So-
That's how you're currently set up, and that's why this is a recommendation for you to consider if you want to add that on when you do the final product. Or it could be just a talking point that this is the summary of
Oh,
everything, the description.
so that the number 1,
Mhm.
growing purpose-driven and empowered students would replace champion success, unlocking each student's full potential. No.
Nope, this would be.
And that's, I think what I'm saying is that it's a little verbose, right? And so you've got this really long descriptor and then a long title.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm just being nitpicky because this is so refined. And those just expand again. So that's my only thing. It's, I guess I'm a word nerd.
Yeah, no, I am too,
To-
but we also want to make sure that when people look at this,
Mhm.
that they understand what it is that the definition, maybe description is, but you're kind of defining that pillar as well. So, and it's up to you all. If you feel that you want to reduce the description down to the descriptor, that's fine too. You could do that when you change it. It's really yours and you get to kind of mold it, but we just need to come up with something that you want to present finally so that the board can adopt it, whatever version you want.
I still like thriving students and prepared citizens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And you're okay. You're okay. Yep.
Leave alone. That's fine.
All right. It's good to get the feedback because sometimes when you're brainstorming those different things,
Mhm.
this sounds better, or maybe it's getting to be too long, and you don't want it to be too long, but it's just gonna be like a title. Okay, so then I'm going to mark this as the new title. Get down here. I'm gonna highlight it. So I know that that's what we want to be on.
And I really like the word cultivate in the revised number 4.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yes, I agree.
Any other changes or words that are potential issues? Okay. Move on to the third pillar. So this is where we left off last time with outstanding achievement. This definition or description on the top and then the 3 bullet points, we removed some language. I further went into that and, would like you to consider the refined description if you want to have a full description, or you can just use the summary description, however you all are choosing, but just so that you see the reason why I changed it to reflect the consistent themes in the that came out with our feedback from last time with the differentiated instruction, closing gaps, expanding tag and CTE, and then adding that voice, student voice and engagement in there. And then the revised number 1, so we had this as number 1, is what we finished with last time, increase success for all students by closing achievement gap, ensuring students are college and career ready. Just modified it slightly to increase academic success for all students. We had talked about like, what a success before does look like for the same thing for all people. That was the previous discussions. By closing achievement gaps, expanding college and career and CTE readiness pathways. You can take it or leave it. You can go back to what you had. This is just for you to consider because it pulls in more of the language that came out of the process. And then also we only have 3 currently, so the addition of number 4 would be to respond to this feedback about arts and sciences engagement and kind of creative, what did you say, creative curriculum, where you have wanting teachers to have time to have creative ways of presenting information. And then changing, so the reason why I changed or suggested changing the outstanding achievement is because it is subjective, that outstanding achievement. And I know that we didn't get a lot of feedback on the parents. That was kind of one that they rated a little bit low. We were all surprised by that. But really what this does is it kind of changes it to that academic success for all or growth focused learning rather than just talking about outstanding achievement, because it's really hard to say what is outstanding achievement? What does that look like?
so you're gonna end up with the same thing with the inclusive and diverse.
Yeah.
Words up in the top.
Yep, so we can either rigorous education, challenging, into inclusive,
Comprehensive.
comprehensive, we could use that again.
That's a good word there for.
Yeah, try to
comprehensive
eliminate those
education.
words. Mhm.
If the diverse is okay in that instance,
In that
Yeah.
context,
because it is,
It's pretty specific.
yes, yeah.
yeah, it's really hard to eliminate words that mean one thing, just whatever thing, but yeah. I guess it's the different learning needs.
You don't even really need a descriptor, meets the learning needs. Because kids,
Yeah, of all students,
doesn't
you're
even.
right, you don't really need
of
to
all
descriptor.
students, is meeting the learning needs of all students.
Agreed? Just remove the word.
And then the instructing to challenge every student. Where is that replacing something on here? I'm sorry, I'm not thinking.
No, it's not replacing. What it's doing is it's taking the new title, the new description, all of the bullet points, and you're pretty much just summarizing it into what does this pillar mean? It means that we are trying to achieve academic success for all. So that means we're instructing to challenge every student. We're trying to make a challenging learning environment, something like that. It's just basically a way to summarize it if you would speak. What is this overall?
Just having a instructing to challenge sounds odd to me, like instruction to challenge sounds better, but But that just sounds very limiting because it's not just instruction, so. Trying to think of a different.
Instructing that challenges.
I think there was another reason why I did this too, and I want to show it to you. Show you what I mean by that. The reason why I chose that, and it can be changed, but the reason why I chose that is because if you look at all these descriptors, just only the descriptors. So what if they can engage in schools, building supportive, so building supportive and future ready learning environments? What is the thriving students prepared citizens? It's growing purpose vision. So it was basically what I did is I tried to find a word for each one to say this is what you're doing in each section.
Okay.
And again, that's just kind of, I was trying to pull another language. So this one would be, we're instructing and challenge every student. That's what academic success for all means. And then this one would be enriching partnerships. So it's just kind of a way of keeping that consistent where people, you're trying to explain to it, what are we doing with this title?
How about just teaching?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not sure about the challenging part, because as a teacher, you want all your kids to be engaged, but some of those kids, it may not challenge them or enrich them if they're gonna be at their grade level, engaged in the learning, comprehending what they learn. So I'm teaching to engage every student rather than challenge.
Keep engaged.
Yeah.
A lot of that is subjectivity of the teacher,
Mm-hmm.
because each teacher engages their children differently.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways you can say
Teaching
it.
that engages their students.
So I was thinking that.
Okay.
Does the word teaching then point to a specific group of people? Because of the title,
Would you rather?
where
teach a
instructing would be more of an action of
Tying in
everybody involved, which I think is an important thing.
That's good. Yeah. Challenge for us.
Or, or you just have remove instructing.
Motivate.
Or instead of to that,
Yeah, motivating every student's good, engaging every student, challenging every student, and take out the instructing too.
well,
Challenging every student, motivating every student,
Motivate.
engaging every student, something. like
we
that.
know we're not gonna challenge every student.
Well, that's what
We know that
says.
going in ahead of time.
You said so instructing to motivate every student, is that what you're saying, or just motivating every student?
Instructing to motivate.
Instructing to motivate?
I don't know.
We know we're not gonna challenge every student. It just isn't gonna be. But we can motivate
just-
them.
How about instructing every student?
We can motivate them.
Instructing to motivate and engage every student. Motivate and engage every student. I don't know.
Well, but if the ultimate role, ultimate outcome is growth for these kids, growth doesn't come through existing, growth comes through challenging, growth comes through work, growth comes through doing something that we find difficult now in order to develop the skills to make it easier later, like math. So I like the idea of challenging. I don't know, I sat in a lot of classrooms and I was bored because I wasn't challenged. I got the education. I knew what we were needing to learn out of that class at the end, but to say it was challenging, to say there was growth there, just, I don't think it was. So
So you think instructing to challenge, or would you think?
I like instructing challenge because I think that, you know, what sets apart some of these teachers is in that engagement side of things, whether they can challenge those kids somewhat on an individual level. And that goes into the engagement, that goes into all of those things, but
Oh, I like the term challenging very much, but I'm just, that's the word nerd. I'm saying instructing to challenge every student, or just take the instructing to and change it just to challenging every student. Because it's under the umbrella of outstanding achievement. That's all. I'll
Or
say.
academic success for all,
Ooh.
maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember the conversation that this came out of last time, was
It's-
everyone talking about challenging students where they are in order for them to, it's basically about setting higher expectations. Because even for students that, they don't have the same expectations because of their learning abilities, but setting expectations and challenges that are individualized, that was kind of what we were talking about, just to show the growth of everyone, so maybe it's instructing for the growth of every student. Like that kind of idea,
to motivate or engage every student,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Motivate academic success for all. What you're saying?
Academic success.
challenging learning, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of hard
Just engaging every student. I
engaging every student.
don't know.
Educating. To challenge everything, challenging education for every student,
I'm sorry, what was that?
challenging education for every student.
Challenging learning for every student.
Educate with challenges.
I guess there's lots of different ways we can say it, you just have to agree with it.
What do you think?
That's going back to my academic success.
Yeah, I like the academic success for all.
Well, that is the title.
That's
Yeah.
the title.
Yeah.
That's the title, so this would be just a summary description of what the title is and the description and all of those action points under it. So what are we doing with, let's look at our actions.
So I've heard engaging and I've heard challenging. Why not just do engaging and challenging every student?
Okay. Yeah, you like that?
Those are kind of words that we all kind of know.
I mean, it's like Jim said, it's not, it's a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily that we're gonna hit it, but we can try.
yeah.
Well, I think our teachers make it, the challenge, so they can engage in.
Yeah.
That's right.
How students respond.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then to,
That's the motivation factor,
Whether it be
but challenging to one person is not to another.
Well, and again,
yeah.
keep in mind what we're doing here. We're setting the roadmap. And then it'll be your guys' job to do, okay, how do we put this into place? And what do we do to make this guide fit what we're doing? So,
And if you're engaging and challenging every student where they are, then you're going to have academic success for all, because they're all gonna have some sort of success that's relative to their achievements.
But at the same time, I'm hearing what you're saying,
Yeah.
that we have a goal that is achievable, which is the teaching goal. And then that's a hard one to live up to, because kids are tired and they're hungry or they're angry or whatever it is. But the goal that we can meet is by providing engaging and challenging curriculum. That one, I know, that's one that we can hit. So, just something to think about.
Then I would say look back at. Every time I play with this, it always takes it out of it. So then basically what you're doing is engaging and challenging every student. This means we will increase success for all students by closing achievement gaps. This means that we're going to provide instruction that engages. This means that we're going to ensure. So that's kind of what that descriptor is trying to take everything you're doing in order to achieve this description. And it's just summarizing it into this is what we're doing under this stuff. We're engaging and challenging students for success and academic success.
Can we stay here just for a second, just to read it? Okay.
This is what we ended with at the last time.
Okay.
And then this is kind of what we would end up with the changing. So instruct, it would be now titled academic success for all, and then that would be instructing, would be engaging and challenging every student. And so the description of this would be that we're providing a rigorous and
Comprehensive.
comprehensive, we're changing that to comprehensive education that meets the learning needs of all students and prepares them for success beyond graduation. And then these are the four things that we're going to do. This is what it means that we will do. We're going to change foster. Would you do that up here? No. So we would need to change foster, professional development, to another word because you want to eliminate that, yes.
Just provide.
Yeah. We have offer, yes, provide.
Or offer, right, because you said last time, some,
We have provided them too. So
Oh,
it's a
okay.
Different word that.
Offer.
yeah,
Offer.
yeah.
I like having CTE in that number
Yeah.
one there.
I do too.
I want to provide on the. Okay, so this would be offer. Any other changes?
Comprehensive.
Yeah, I did those changes up here, I was gonna. Go ahead and- Oh, let's do this.
I'm concerned about number 4.
Okay.
Promotes creative student-centered learning through enrichment opportunities. I love that. And I get that we include the arts, but I'm not sure why we are specific on science, because there's so much more than just science. If we list science experiments, we do hands-on engaging ELA and hands-on engaging math. And, you know, I just was wondering about that.
You're right, actually, I think the last time we had talked about this should have been STEAM. So it was supposed to be arts, science. It was supposed to be more than just that, enrichment opportunities
STEM thing,
on STEAM experiences.
get math in there too.
Hands-on math experience.
Hands-on learning experience.
STEM
There
is,
you go.
includes it all.
Okay, okay.
Because there's learning in other areas besides just STEAM, STEM. There we go.
I was making jokes and you solved the problem. Thank you.
That's why I'm sitting right here.
And then on your title, you've got engaging with 2 N's.
I do.
That was the Louisiana version.
I know. Engaging.
Think that.
We're using learning twice in number 4.
Okay, all right. Creative.
I don't know that it matters, but
You want to just eliminate the second learning and just say hands-on experiences? Or no?
Well, I don't know, if I was talking to my daughter, who's now a paid coach at Oregon State, and how she talks about Thomas Moses' leadership class, and how some of the stuff in there, you know, prepared her.
learning, you got the end.
You know, I don't know if that falls under or not, you know, kind of that leadership. Really said, yeah. Like, I don't know if we capture leadership. anywhere.
Would that be hands-on?
Yeah, probably.
So what if I said, okay, so promote creative, student-centered, let's say, get rid of that, enrichment opportunities. And, sorry, I can't feel
Hands-on leadership experiences.
Oh, and opportunities, leadership and arts.
and leadership.
Yeah. No, not there.
Oh gosh, sorry,
After opportunities.
After.
after opportunities,
Yeah, after opportunities.
leadership.
Yeah, arts and hands-on.
Although I'm trying to not have the same word in both. Because we have student-centered learning through enrichment opportunities, leadership, arts, and hands-on education experiences. So you don't have learning twice.
Yep.
That work?
I like that.
Do we want to take the word creative out, just keep it promote student-centered only, because sometimes creativity isn't necessarily part of some of that.
I hear what you're saying. The only reason why I
Well-
put creativity in there is because of the feedback of wanting the teachers to have the ability to have creative ideas and a curriculum and be able to do fun and creative different things.
Okay.
I think some of the creative ideas serve Sweet Home students really well too. Yes.
Okay, let me ask you this, promote creative student-centered learning through enrichment, comma, leadership. I don't know if opportunities, I don't know,
Okay,
just asking everybody if you think it flows, or,
so it will be promote creative student-centered learning through.
enrichment. I guess it's okay.
Yeah, you could.
Enrichment opportunities is clear to me.
Yeah.
but-
No, you're
Yeah,
right.
it's me too.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. That was final to you?
You guys okay with that?
Let Mary get through it.
I was just kind of looking for,
Yeah,
the-
yeah,
yeah, lots of different words. It's good.
okay. It's really hard to try and incorporate all those words that everyone's talking about, trying to get it to. All right, so let's move on to the final one. Let's see.
There, we do say education twice in that one, I just caught it.
Oh,
But
okay,
on number 2,
okay,
education options, and then number 4, education experiences, but. And I think we've already used the word academic. I don't know if there's any other hands on. We've got.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
alternative education options.
Well, we are in the education business.
Right,
And alternative education options is specific.
Very.
Alternative.
so
Yeah.
at the bottom, we have hands-on education experiences. I don't know if there's another
Okay.
word for education, or we just leave
So
it.
go back to.
I think leave it there. I think
Student-centered. Actually, what I was really doing is trying to eliminate that word learning, so you could kept it
Yeah.
here.
Yep,
So that's why I was trying to do student-centered enrichment opportunities, leadership arts and hands-on learning experiences.
students.
But I don't know if that sounds good either.
Adding more words.
I think if you eliminate learning through. And then change education to learning, I think that that's
Look at it like that.
That's-
Side.
still clear as to what we're looking at here.
Yeah.
And then put learning in where.
Yeah.
Education would be,
Yeah.
is down there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking you should move on.
What'd you say?
Okay. Final one. This is where we left off. We're talking about that community wellness and wanting to bring in more about the community. We also have some comments about students out in the community. I didn't want to repeat it. That's originally the description we had. So here's the thing to consider. That we have enriching partnerships to support students. The new or refining the description would be to build strong connections among schools, families, and community partners to support student growth and shared success. That's just kind of changing what we have up here to bring in more of what we were talking about previously. And then these were the 4. So we're considering revising 1, which we had connect students with local businesses and learn about emerging career opportunities, expand work experiences, something about students out in the community. So this is what I revised it to connect students with local businesses, colleges, and organizations to explore emerging careers and engage in real world learning.
Yeah.
Like that, okay.
Yep, good job.
And then, we had 4, but I was asking you to consider adding a 5th one to elevate student voice and leadership to strengthen school culture and community belonging, that's based on our student voice and that sense of belonging and culture that came out of that previous exercise.
Can we look at, you know how you created ones where it's already all done?
Yep, I will. I will do that. And then the revised title would be, instead of thriving community, because community should refer to the town rather than the school itself. And you really want to talk about how the school is connecting with the community. So my suggestion is saying connected to the community, or connecting to the community, or something like that with connections to the community rather than thriving community, because we also already have thriving that we use.
How about community connection?
Mhm. So this, what does it look like?
Well, if you do community connections, it's not with the school.
Um,
You gotta
Yeah,
make
that's
sure
the
it's,
reason why I put connected school, community, or like school with
Yeah.
community.
I like.
mhm.
gotta make sure it's got school in there.
Mhm.
This is not only connecting with the community outside, but like we're doing with the seniors going down
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
the.
to grow your own kind of.
Yeah.
concepts too. Mhm.
Is it 3 and 4 similar? Cultivate business relationships, partnerships, and volunteer opportunities, and number 4 is encourage.
Yes, I think we did talk,
Mm.
I don't know what we talked about last time, that number 4 was already kind of, that's one of the things, yeah, do we combine that or just eliminate 4 and just have me standing for that?
By volunteering.
Do all the other ones have 4 bullet points?
Hold on. Let's see, go back to mine. We have 4. 4.
4 or not?
I
This
guess
would be
we just
five.
add a 5, so.
So this would have been the out of 5, and I think actually, yeah, that's. So, yeah, we could do it,
Eliminate 4.
or combine 3 and 4.
Well, but is 3 and 4 really the same? Because who are we wanting to volunteer? I mean, I think in 3, we're looking at people coming in and volunteering, helping out.
Mhm.
And in 4, we're encouraging the students to get out in the community and volunteer in the community. So I think you're thinking about 2 separate
Types of
things.
volunteering.
Okay, so let's look at 1 and 4. By connecting students with local businesses, isn't that a sense of?
Well, no, that's for work
Hmm.
or for college readiness or,
Mhm.
Similar to the program we have going with the health university over there in Lebanon, where they're out in the community, they're connected, they're learning about the careers. I think that's where number 1 is. And I think number 3 is about bringing in the community.
Like job fair type.
Yeah, that type of thing. And then 4 is about encouraging kids to get out and volunteer.
Is there any way we can combine 4 and 3 by somehow like cultivate business
you're
relationships?
better off to combine 4 and 5.
I was just gonna pick one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Encourage students to volunteer and serve our community, elevate student voice and leadership to strengthen school culture
Yeah.
and community belonging. Yeah, absolutely good. Put 4 and 5 together. Let's see. Elevate the student voice.
You could have it just elevate student voice and leadership by encouraging students to volunteer and serve our community.
I think if you do it just straight up, I think it goes right in and it's not too long.
Okay, so you said, I heard elevate student voice and leadership. By encouraging, is that what you said?
Yeah, I was just combining.
Yeah, by encouraging students to volunteer and serve in their community.
Well, it's not all about that.
So I think I heard what you were saying, Jim, is to append it to the end, right?
Yeah,
Or like,
Yeah.
toward the end,
Yeah.
in a way, so it sounded like elevate student voice and leadership. I can't remember what it was
Hold on
before.
1 second. Go back.
To strengthen school culture
yeah, that's where I'm at on that one.
and community belonging by encouraging them.
Encourage students to volunteer and serve in their community
Mhm.
and elevate student voice and leadership by strengthening school culture.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
For students.
They're two different things, but they both pertain to students.
yeah. It's a little bit longer than the
Yeah.
others, but it's not too much longer than the others.
Still have like 2 sentences.
Two words.
Should we replace the first and with a comma?
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I'm sorry, not that one. I was, yeah,
As a
the
person.
next and. There we go. Or elevates.
You could eliminate the second one or the third one also. Because there's another and on down there.
Encourage students to volunteer and serve in our community, elevate student voices, leadership. To strengthen, there's something not right with that.
With,
With leadership.
with leadership.
To strengthen school culture and. Yeah. Oh, are you saying to remove that comma after voices and say what?
But with instead.
Yeah,
How are you elevating the student voices
Yeah.
with leadership?
yeah, with leadership.
When did you appear?
It's like, we could have used you 15 minutes ago.
It's called fresh eyes.
Should it be elevating and not elevate? Should it be elevating and not
Yeah.
elevate?
Yes.
That's what I think. Is it?
Elevating student voices.
Leadership. I feel like this comma should be here to do it this way though. The different idea is like, it's like encourage students.
Should be a call after leadership, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, after leadership. So
Elevating
two,
student voices with leadership. The reason to strengthen school culture and community bond.
Okay. Encourage students to volunteer and serve in our community, elevate student voices with leadership to strengthen school culture and community bond.
I'm not sure whether it's any shorter.
We can play with that. How about that? We'll play with that. We'll get something that makes sense grammatically. And then when you go to adopt it, you'll have the final version, okay? I'm gonna highlight that one so I know to address that to make sure. Okay. So,
Oh, one quick thing at the top, enriching partnerships that support students. How about enriching partnerships to support students?
uh-huh.
Just
It's
one-
in the next one down there, community partners to support.
Yeah,
Yeah, and because this is basically a condensed version of all of these elements,
Yeah,
so yeah. All right, if you feel good about that, we can move on to the exercise for the mission and vision. Does anyone need a short break before we move into that? Yeah, okay, let's do that. Thank you for speaking. Appreciate it. Well, I'll get that. That's today, I mean. Three, maybe three small groups?
hey. What time are they leaving down there? Dave? Okay, all right. Here we go. We get Ellie Grace. Okay. Yeah, your mom had a phone there for that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so here's.
yeah, okay. See you later.
Makes it on meters.
Well, we just bought a new trailer.
Yeah.
For doing the concessions. The one that's been up the state fair forever.
Yeah,
The stone booth,
Good question.
we bought that one.
No, it's shortly. 2 weeks.
The vendor chair.
Yeah, we've got one already and then the tents and stuff that we do at the fairs. But it's easier if we're going in 3 different directions to have 2 different trailers and the tents.
Yeah.
It's not good. You go to a car show and you don't have everything there.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
6-hour car show. You know, to make $1,000 and you don't have everything there.
yeah,
And you're kind of by yourself to do it, or 2 people,
yeah.
can't really leave. We made over $100,000 last year in the sessions.
Yeah.
Not all profit, probably 50% of it. We should be able to do close to 200,000 this year. Be enough for Cindy to live on.
Yeah.
We don't need it. You know, we got plenty of time. At least I'll be retiring, I think, this year. When she does, she'll work back for a while. Whatever she makes, we'll use that for, you know, going to wherever,
Yeah,
Europe,
yeah,
whatever, for a few days here or there. And, nobody needs that much money to run around. Just get you throbbing.
it's amazing how expensive it gets pretty fast though.
Yeah,
We just went to Arizona for spring break.
I did there.
Did you? Yeah,
But about the fourth summer, I had so many stores from the beach bill and like, I have a meeting with it on my shoes to get a conference. To go be going to the pool. I was like, I should have done. I don't want to live summer here. I'm like, I can totally do the snowbird thing.
that's why we went down in March.
We should play.
my daughter Braxton for 3 months for MMA, so that's what kind of, so she decided not to want to fight like that, but he was like, I didn't do great. She gets in the ring with somebody who's had 5 fights before, and won all 5. And judo and
Yeah.
all that stuff. But she wasn't afraid, she really didn't have one. She lost. But
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Costa.
Hmm?
Mr. Costa.
Tarzan, Fourth Lane. Yeah.
He was-
It's nice. School.
It's about, it's about.
Long day.
You can do that driving.
Yeah.
It's,
two of you here, then three over here, there's one here. I don't know, any of the staff members want to join one of the groups
I got 6.
as well. Otherwise, we're gonna see with these three groups. So, we're gonna go into talking about refining your mission and vision statements. I think one of the great things on your strategic plan is that you have your mission and vision statements. We've done a lot of altering and revising to our priorities and the statements that are going under it. So we just want to kind of look at our mission and vision and just make sure that it's also aligned with what the new priorities are for the next few years. So I just want to kind of talk about if it's gonna, we want to make sure that we're incorporating the portrait of a graduate, the revised strategic priorities, as well as community feedback, just to make sure that we're answering the essential question of what students need with our mission and vision statements. So first we talk about the difference between mission and vision statements. The mission statement is going to be why we exist, who we serve, our purpose. The vision statement is what we hope to become or achieve. That's more of the aspiration for the future. And so we just want to kind of make sure that some of those key words that we have, that we've been going throughout all these exercises are maybe incorporated into what we currently have. So we'll start with what we have, and then we're gonna first just take a few minutes individually on a piece of paper if you have to just kind of look at these current statements for your mission of give each child every chance to achieve their potential and your vision of a district where each child feels valued, inspired, and has a sense of belonging. We see a lot of those things coming out from your work that you've been doing. So what I'm asking you to do is just look at them individually for about 10 minutes, recognize what words and ideas stood out and should stay, make sure. What's missing possibly based on some of the feedback we've done or some of the work and activities that we've done. Are there any concerns with improvement in areas? The reason why equity and actionability and stuff, those are all words that came out of your survey. And then how could these students better reflect what students need? So before I have you do that, I want you to remind you of the feedback you got on your survey, that the mission and statement, they basically, most people said that it should be kept. Only a small percentage, I think 17% said that really we should probably update this. Same with the vision statement, most everybody said we should keep it as it is. Some people, 20% said we should update the statement. Some of the feedback from after reading the district vision and mission statements, these are the things that stood out to people who answered the feedback. I mostly was looking at this side. This is the positive reactions that they had to items, and these were their suggestions for improvement. I also listed some of the criticism and concern, but not all of it was directly related to the mission and vision. And then that area over here is the personal experience and additional feedback. So really what I want you to do, I don't know if you have, you probably don't have stuff from the previous. I'll try and keep this up on the board, but this and the this one, they said, is there anything that you could change or about the mission or vision? And these are the suggested additions and the language changes. So I don't know if it's best. I don't think we have it from your previous packet unless you have your previous packet with you where it had this feedback in it. But maybe just look at your, I know you all have the strategic plan copy in front of you, right? We don't have that anymore. Okay. All right. So I can flip back and forth as people need.
We can look at it.
Maybe just take a little time to kind of look at what people said about the vision and mission, and then I'll let you do your evaluation individually. So here, this is what I'm asking you to do. Just basically look at the mission and vision, think about the words and ideas that stood out and what should stay, and then what's missing and how can they better reflect students. And that, I don't want you to write anything on the big piece of paper or on the post-it yet.
Want us to get it?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind coming in with the groups and working together with the board members.
So right now, are we working individually or as a group?
Individually,
Oh,
right.
okay.
Just taking a few minutes to kind of look at it and jot down your own idea for these guys. Okay. like you're all done.
or something like that, just so you know, oh, that's good.
Okay, so I
Item
think it was
motion
funny
thing.
listening to the conversations. I think
I know we
people are
have
having very
glasses.
similar conversations and realizations. I'm gonna go back to talking about, you know, what is the mission and what is the vision? And.
I think you touched the screen. There you go.
Yeah, I did. So the mission is the why we exist, the who we serve, what our purpose is, and the vision is what we hope to become or achieve and our aspiration for the future. So I think it's funny that everyone kind of wrote what they thought their mission and vision should be and made some changes. I think it's funny that you all wrote on the green thing, the same thing, basically that opportunity. So we definitely need to keep opportunity. Let's see. Some of the similarities, we want to keep belong or belonging. We want to swap the mission and vision. We want to say the mission, this is for is, so students feel, it should be is rather than valued, which is also the feedback.
It feels valued, so is valued.
Is valued instead of feels, which currently is, right? And that was feedback we got from parents and community as well. And then this one, some of the words that we want to keep in this is welcome, inspired, valued. Each child changed to student, so change each child to student. So these are the ideas that we want to make sure we have. Let's see what we have. So mission, a district where each student is valued, inspired, and has a sense of belonging. Mission, give each child every opportunity to achieve their full potential. Mission, a district where students are welcome, inspired, and valued. Very similar.
I think the attorney writing that kind of switched it to,
Oh,
But that's how it is currently,
yeah,
and we're saying we think it's backwards.
I think. Might be.
so you're saying that for this one, we would swap it as well, that the mission is actually a district where each child is valued, inspired, and has a sense of belonging?
The answer to the question,
Mhm.
it does.
And then the mission would be give each child every opportunity to achieve their full potential. So
That'd
it
be-
looks like.
That'd be the bit.
That's like ours. It's almost exact,
And that's ours too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Give each child every opportunity to achieve their potential.
Okay, so,
Someone said.
We put full.
We just put full.
okay, so let's put this together. Let's look at all three that we have for our mission statement. And put what we would have as our final one based on everyone's input here, making sure that we're keeping it.
The only thing that we did was we
Change.
said student instead of child, which is what they swapped over there.
Yeah.
Except for you guys took out student and made child. On your vision,
No, I think it was there. We just had it backwards.
you backwards, okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so if I were to start typing, we have, let's see.
And the reason that we did that.
You want me to read it to you?
Yeah.
okay, a district where each student is, I underlined it, valued, inspired, and has a sense of belonging. Do you want the next, how do you want to do this? With
Well,
3 different versions and then we can
let's see what the
wordsmith?
differences are.
And I have a difference throwing in the welcome.
They have child,
Value
Each
welcome.
child here. And we
So-
put student.
Okay, and I think you also changed child to student, correct?
yeah, so
Okay, wait,
Mission,
on the first one and then.
A district where students,
students are welcome, inspired, and valued.
Mhm,
so
it's a little bit different.
it's a little bit different, but it's each student or students.
mhm.
And then welcome. Welcome, inspired and valued, valued, inspired, and has a sense of belonging. So they changed has a sense of belonging to welcome.
I'd be fine with
Yeah,
Can we,
welcome.
can we type them all out though, just so we can see the differences?
I'll read number 2 to you. A district where each child is valued, comma, inspired, and has a sense of belonging,
Is that the current one?
has a sense of belonging. That's their second one.
No, I mean, it's almost verbatim, but they changed.
Yeah.
What is the current one? Somebody read.
The current mission, give each child every opportunity or chance to achieve their potential.
It's a current vision. The current
Vision.
district.
Yeah,
A district where each child feels valued, inspired, and has a sense of belonging.
So I think in that one, it's just changed from feels to is.
is.
Okay, okay, so it's the same thing. Oh, just curious.
So then the third mission, if you're ready for it. A district where students are welcomed, inspired, and valued.
Okay.
There is a difference between welcome and
Valued.
value
Well, they have
or
value,
belonging,
sense of belonging.
because, we know that they're welcome when they come into into each classroom, but do they feel like they belong there? That's what we want.
But you're building that belonging by doing all three of those.
Well, we're not,
It's not just when they come through the door, it's,
you want the overall sense of belonging there.
we were trying to,
Saying,
Harvey made a good point, when you come up with like a mission and vision statement, you want kids to be able to say it, where it doesn't get too convoluted or wordy. So we're trying to find a one word that would replace that sense of belonging, and welcomed is what we came up with. But perhaps there's another word that we could use as a synonym for the sense of belonging.
about is valued, inspired, and belongs.
I was gonna say.
Belongs is okay.
It's
Let
fine.
the kids be able to say, what is your district?
We were trying to get out of the sense and the feels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We couldn't figure out how to do that, so.
That's what we were trying to do too.
So are we saying will we keep welcomed, or will we say like they inspired, valued, and belong?
You want student or child first?
Yeah.
Well, the only reason that we changed it to student is because if you look at the current mission and vision statement, it says each child, and then under the vision, and then each and every child. So like we were doing earlier, just trying to get away from those repeated.
Students are really what they are when they come in the door. They're not a
Right.
child, they're a student.
Yeah,
I think we should keep students.
Plus, I think some of your older students would feel like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm a child.
right.
So basically the number one with the different, belongs. Is that what you said?
Valued,
Carrie?
inspired, and belongs. It
That
is.
belongs.
Is that what we're saying? Okay, now does this answer all three of the questions? The mission statement, that's one thing they want to evaluate from.
Who are we?
Mhm. The district,
Yeah,
What
are we doing?
Serving
who we serve,
students.
and what is our purpose?
What is our purpose? For them to feel valued, inspired, and belong.
For them to be valued, inspired. and
Yes.
belong.
We have it? Okay.
make it will be.
On to vision. Okay,
You want to do the same thing?
yes, please.
Vision. Hey, I found your mouse.
Yeah, it's
Right
up there.
on the screen.
Yeah, there you go.
But. Right here.
I'll just blame it on Julie, it's all good.
Sorry.
In between the brackets.
That's what I'm trying to do, but I can't, it's not letting me actually spend it on my screen, because.
Just a screenshot.
There we go, I can get it. Hold on,
Oh,
come on. Oh, well. Okay, I got it. I got it.
Okay.
Goodness gracious. I don't know why I put chart on there, but,
Okay. Oh,
all right, go ahead.
a vision. Oh, sorry. No, take that out. Give each student every opportunity, sorry. To achieve their full potential. And the next one,
Mhm.
give each child every opportunity, opportunity to achieve their full potential.
Okay.
And the next one is give each, you guys want student in that one,
Everyone
right?
student.
Give each student every opportunity to achieve their potential.
Did you want?
That's not what they had.
Something.
Nope.
So pretty much the same, except for one has child and one has
Student.
without pool.
Yep.
So now a vision statement, this is our goal. Like, what were the-
No, this would be the vision statement.
So the.
Oh, I see what
Like-
you're asking.
Like the one, what are we answering on the vision statement?
Yes, you are answering,
On the slide in the block.
mine's a touchscreen too, so it should go, there we go. So you want to be answering. There.
That one.
What we hope to become, achieve, and our aspiration for the future.
Want to achieve their full potential.
Do we want, okay, so it's that word full, that,
Full.
right, it can't, is that some, is a vision statement measurable? Or is it just what we're looking?
It's what her potential is and her potential is, and then her potential is, each potential is different.
So is that their potential then, or their full potential, I guess?
Oh,
It's aspiration, so. Are you looking for their full potential? How do you define full potential versus their potential, their individual potential? I think that's what you're talking about, basically, right? The word full, is that?
Full of necessary descriptor.
Yeah, I don't think it is because potential is unlimited, basically.
Yeah.
I like the short and sweet.
but if you put a spot on there that says you will only require to receive your potential. And once they think, teacher thinks you've received your potential, you're there.
But how do you know what
Is your
potential is?
So maybe we think about the word full and what you're trying to actually express. And the idea is that you want to be a school that sets high expectations. So you want them to achieve potential that's individualized, right? But at the same time, you also want to make sure that each student has expectations that they can meet, not that you're setting expectations that are lower than those higher or aspirational. You know what I mean? So if you want to think about what potential do you want them to meet and what are you trying to do as an organization?
Full potential feels more aspirational.
Yes.
Can we agree that we're talking about students, not each child?
Oh, yeah, we said students, I think, so, yeah,
Students.
so we're looking at 1 or 3.
And then potential versus their potential and all of this,
Inspiration.
Mhm.
sounds like number one.
And,
The boss has spoken. Therefore,
I like number one, that's good.
Yeah, number one.
Can we look at the mission statement again real quick? Because I just, it's that idea of
So
a
it's-
district where,
so,
so we've
yeah.
got a district where each student, so we have each student for the mission, and then if you go back to the vision, it also says each student.
Yep.
Is that,
Yes.
Okay.
so we don't want to change one for like students, all inclusive, but we want to individualize it for each student. You see the difference that I'm saying? Okay.
So you're talking about each student here, the district where each student who we're serving is valued, inspired, and belongs. That's our purpose. And then our vision is that each student has, or we give each student the opportunity to achieve their full potential.
So the only thing I guess what I'm saying with this one, the vision one, is that the vision is for each student.
One is,
Where if you go back to the mission, instead of each student, it should be all encompassing as students. That's what I'm trying to say.
well, I agree.
It's just, of course, students are valued.
Students are valued,
That's right.
inspired. and
Right,
belong.
that's the, like, the big idea of our, yeah, where, I like where you said all students, I like that.
So a district
either.
where all students are valued, inspired, and belong.
Belong, yeah, I know this.
So we go from all with the mission, and then the vision is each, so it shows it from the big umbrella down to each individualized, that's cool.
Okay, so a district where all students are valued, inspired, and belong, that's our mission. And our vision is. To give. All right, so give each student every opportunity to achieve their full potential, number one. That was fast. It was just a matter of determining what the definition of value or mission and vision are and realizing.
So to be a little argumentative here, why are we switching from all to each? Wouldn't we be giving all students every opportunity to achieve their full potential?
I think the mission is all encompassing, the vision is individualized.
Because
it's
you're talking about
individual.
who we serve.
Each,
I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Do you want to go back to that one, and make sure you highlight or separate the one that's chosen?
oh, yeah, I know.
Okay.
So it's the one that was separated and put it out, and then I will highlight,
There you go.
the top one to make sure. And before I do that, because I don't want to touch the screen again. I'm going to talk about the next steps. Now that we've completed all three of the items that we put into our strategic plan, the priorities or pillars. And then we have the portrait of a graduate. And now we have our mission and vision statement. Do you all feel that your mission and vision aligns with what your current priorities are, even though we've adapted them a little bit, pretty much so the same? So I think that they do align. If you have any questions about that, let me know. But basically what we want to do is you want to take all those things that we've worked on, and I'm going to give you the final version so that at your next meeting, you can adopt them. You can finalize them, however you're going to do that. But one question I wanted to ask you before we do that is sometimes, because we did it a little differently, where we asked the community and did a survey before we started working on the priorities, oftentimes when we develop those things, we get feedback afterwards. So my suggestion is, if you want to have feedback on what we've changed it to, that maybe when you go to adopt these different things, that you provide public comment, or you provide some sort of way that people can comment on the new ones before you finalize them or approve them, adopt them. I don't know if you have something that you're planning, or I don't think you would want to send out another survey, but you also said that it's very difficult to get people to come to the meetings. So I don't know, it's up to you. If you do want to come up with a way to get input on the new ones, you could do that before your next meeting. If you feel that you've got enough from the first one that you feel that you're informed in making the decisions about how you finalize them, then you don't have to, it's an optional step. So I just wanted to let you know that oftentimes we do those community forums, or we do things after the board has come up with, like, these are what our draft priorities are. These are the things that we're going to think about adopting, so that before we move on with building that strategic plan. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Maybe put an article out there on the new era.
I think it sounds great to do that. But I think you're opening yourself up for another round.
Well, isn't that sort of the goal?
No. No. The goal is
Not
to end up,
necessarily opening it for a round, but involving the community and their.
well, they've already been involved. They've already had their input. If you open it up again, you just have to come back and relook at it again, revisit it one again, and you may not get any farther than you are right now. I don't know, I'm just saying.
I agree. You
And our
said-
goal is to get it done before June 30th.
You got a lot of information for the feedback. You use that feedback in order to inform the new ones that you've revised. What I'm saying is that it might just be an opportunity that even if you don't think people can show up to the meeting, to at least say, we're willing to take any comments at this time, so that the opportunity is provided. It's just a thought that we're gonna be approving it at this meeting. Here it is in the board packet, or here it is, you know, when you put the board packet out, you can make it available on your website. If you have anything that you'd like to comment about it, we have received community input. If there's any additional comments you'd like to make, that you may show up to the meeting. And at least you're providing the opportunity for them to get feedback on the final version before you adopt it. It's just something to consider. But you're right, you don't want to go completely in a full
because
survey like.
Every one of those people that put something different on a survey will come back and say, why didn't you use my input? I think mine is better.
Yeah, the idea of putting it out in the new era is like just the old versus the new, and then this is
Yes,
what we've been
Yes,
working
I
on.
agree with that.
And but not giving it another opportunity for but if you have any comments, you can email Terry or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
We were taking into consideration the comments that we received as we were.
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Yep.
And that could be what you say, just to let everyone know when you go to adopt it, that this is what we did and this is how I incorporated it and all of your packets so far have shown what the feedback was and that it was shared with the board. So I just wanted to provide it because it's part of our process that we usually do the opposite of what we did this time. So I just want to
Chances are you're gonna get a whole different audience the second time. too.
possibly, yeah.
That's true.
Okay. So basically next steps, you want to finalize the vision statements that we just finalized them. So really that's what it is. I'm just going to provide them for you. We didn't have any changes to the portrait of graduates, so that's provided. But what I am going to do is I'm going to take those revisions that we had tonight and I'm going to put it into a final format like the paper that we already shared, so that you'll have that. You can take all three of those items and you can move forward. And then after the priorities and the portrait and the mission and vision statements are adopted, then the next step would be to direct the superintendent and district leadership staff to go ahead and develop the plan and the goals and the indicators that go with those pillars that you've established, those priorities established. At that time, when you direct the superintendent, okay, we've adopted these, go ahead and start doing the plan. You're going to want to also set up some due dates for when you want that plan to be finished. And then I recommend if it's going to be a few months, we usually say, and set up maybe some check-in points. So like if you're going to say it's due by August, you know, I want you to check in June. Maybe it's only one check-in, but just establish those dates. Set the date that you want it done. And if you want to have any check-ins before that, just because when you finally have it, we also want to make sure before we adopt the full strategic plan with all those goals, we want to make sure that what is developed is aligned, and that those indicators are selected. And then also when you do get to the point where you're ready to adopt that whole strategic plan, you're going to have a monitoring plan as well. And you kind of develop when that's going to happen to say, okay, we have our strategic plan. We've adopted it based on these priorities. It's due this time. Okay, we're going to adopt it. Now, as we go into the new school year, we're going to make sure that we have some check-ins to say, what is our progress on these different goals? What are the indicators? What areas are we doing well in? What areas do we need to maybe work around? Yes.
Do we adopt the mission statement or these pillars as a whole, and then look at the how Terry's going to implement those pillars in, say, in September before the school year or August before the school year? Is that what you think, Terry? So we implement it in June, and then you would have June, July, and August to get it ready for, or June and July to implement it. So implementation would go in August.
Only just thinking through, directors are out in July. You know, that's my team, we will be doing it, I'm sure that we will be doing it. Be nice to have,
Yeah,
time. for-
yeah, I think we have to have this ready for you. Then, so you can do your executive decisions. What are those timing? Have that done by June?
I think
This done by June? So you can have it by July?
I think we could have our part of this done next month.
Yeah, May.
Yep, that's the idea.
Well, then, and then that would give kind of the end of this school year. And then a little bit into the next school year. Cause there's gonna be things, I mean,
You'll have most of it,
yeah,
but not, maybe not all of it.
Yeah, ideally, you'll want to have your plan in place for the new school year, and yes, if just everyone's kind of getting worked in and stuff like that. But are there things that you're gonna be doing that might be affecting how the next school year goes? Possibly, so you just want to kind of make sure that it's in place for the next school year.
Maybe a check-in like November, December, just.
Yeah.
how's it-
Yeah.
How's
that's
it
what we're
go?
going with. Any other questions?
So on the bottom of this, we have
Yeah.
these two extra little pieces. Are we gonna talk about those or?
That's kind of something we incorporate with our stuff, so I don't know, I know that you had talked in the beginning that you were thinking about maybe eliminating some of those, because it doesn't really meet anymore. If you want to have something like that, then that's something the board would wanna talk about, if you wanna include that. I don't know that it's necessarily something to include on the whole process, but that might be part of once the strategic plan is developed and you have those goals for each of these pillars. Then those indicators that are gonna say that we've reached or met those goals or we're working towards those goals. If some of that information might be included in the strategic plan itself, and then if you want to add it on to your final version of your strategic plan, like you have with that, that's possible.
Well, I think Terry monitors those thriving citizen and thriving community in each one of our school board meetings, but he may want to put emphasis on something else. The way we've written our new policies, or whenever he comes up with new policies, what he wants to emphasize in the school board meetings that we want to watch
Right,
every meeting.
yeah, like as a result of the bottom, those are
Yeah,
all.
but I think that's him
Yeah,
coming up with.
they're meant.
Okay,
That's,
so. Terry, I think they're saying that as a result, it's kind of going on your plate, okay. And then can you go back one? And then as far as adopt the district priorities, that's the one that we just did at the beginning of the
Yeah,
meeting.
4 pillars,
And then the portrait of a graduate is what we did the last meeting.
correct?
And then the mission and vision statement. So like right now, we have, this is a handy dandy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then the mission and vision statement is here. So how portrait of a graduate, where is that going to? How would we display that?
So typically how districts do it, if they're using a portrait of a graduate to incorporate it into their strategic plan and how they're developing their strategic plan, the strategic plan and the portrait of a graduate are two separate documents, but one informs the other. So you could have what you have back there, but then you could also maybe have an additional, 1 page saying that this is what our graduates look like. Or if you want to get creative and figure out a way to incorporate them both into a single sheet, we recommend a single sheet. But maybe it's the front and back. Maybe it's on the front, you have your strategic plan pillars and everything, and then on the back, you have what your portrait of graduate looks like.
That was 5 little bullet statements, right? It's the portrait of graduate.
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's more than that.
And the only reason I'm thinking or asking is because there is this space down below. Portrait of 5 of them. So this is to the board or everyone, these two things at the bottom could be replaced.
It
with
could be
the
this
portrait
right
of a
there,
graduate
it's on the bottom.
down here.
Mhm.
Just an idea.
I think every student should get what they are expected, a portrait of what their graduation should be, or what they should be when they graduate, so they have an idea what we expect of them, so that they know.
So do you like that idea of putting those 5 down here at the bottom to replace those 2?
It did inform your pillars, so if you wanted to kind of say this
I
is
think-
what our priorities are, this is what we're looking.
I think that's okay, it's a little small, but I think each student should know what's expected of them. You know, that they're expected to be dependable, honest, compassionate individuals.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just a matter of putting something on your website. A lot of places do that too. They just put it on the website. This is what our graduates look like.
It's generic sweet home. AI created person portrait, and then he's coming off what sweet home portrait of graduate.
They look at our website every day almost, those kids do.
Yeah.
They look at calendars and everything else on there, so.
And then that way you can easily make it into a graphic that you put into the schools too.
If we make it a priority and show it over and over and over, I think they're gonna get it.
All right. Well, that's it.
Per
You did a lot of work. At least we broke it up over time. You did a great job.